Do we have the perfect storm in front of us to allow XRP and the rest of the crypto market to explode significantly higher? Well, in this video, I do want to address that. And I want to start off by looking at the charts, of course. Yes, I know the charts don't mean anything. TA doesn't mean anything at all, blah, 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 whatever. I just want to take a quick look at things because, again, on the weekly, yes, we are still pretty bearish right now. But the main thing that I'm looking at with this price action is just simply where we are at currently compared to like the macro side. And yeah, I do think that we have a little bit lower to go. Like we could definitely go all the way down to like $53,000, but we are in a major pocket here for Bitcoin. That pocket is retesting all of the demand going back to September, August, July, June, May, April, and even March of 2024, but also the 2021 all-time high. This is where we should technically see a bottom form on Bitcoin anyways. So if we are going to find a bottom here and just kind of chop a bit, that's totally fine. In fact, that's what we would expect, especially considering the fact that we could very well build a bottom right around that low, like 55K region and ultimately bottom out and then go crazy. We also don't even have to go that low considering the fact that we are in this demand zone anyways, but that's what I would be expecting here before we have that much larger jump to the upside. Now we're going to talk about the factors here and the catalysts that will help Bitcoin go that high and also have that strong impulsive move. And of course, yes, it will carry XRP with it. I have been tracking XRP. I have been focused on XRP for a bit of time, as you guys are aware. And yeah, very similar to Bitcoin, like we're at $1.11 here. We already retested the all-time highs going back to 2021. But I do think that where our main area of interest really kind of lies is the high going back to July of 2023. Now, if you guys were around during that time, then you would know that that's when we got XRP cleared as not a security. So anywhere within this area, I would say is a good zone for XRP to kind of bottom out in. It's also sub $1, so it's pretty much a fire sale on XRP at that point. And I do believe very similar to Bitcoin, we should have a bottoming structure here before we get that continuation back to the upside. There's a lot of demand, there's a lot of resistance that could be flipped into support, and it would just allow for XRP's macro chart to pretty much form a bullish structure. So that's what I'm really kind of looking at with XRP and Bitcoin. But let's talk about why we are still seeing a bit of chop in the market. And also let's address the uncertainty side of things. The Iran war. So if we're really thinking about this, yes, since the Iran war, like, you know, Bitcoin and most of the crypto market really has been, I would say, pretty resilient to it. Like here we have the beginning of February, all the way throughout the end of February. This is when the Iran war started. Bitcoin just kind of chopped around support. And then we continued higher to like $82,000. Then we hit a wall here. And of course, yes, May, typically a bearish month for crypto. We just sold off into into June. And I really kind of go back in time to even like June, July, and even August of 2024. And during that time, we just kind of chopped, which is why like I kind of expect us to chop around this range anyways. Like if we are really bottomed out here, then we shouldn't really move below $59,000. But, you know, I do just kind of expect us to chop here a bit and then get that, you know, nice rise going into September. It would also align with the Clarity Act passing by like roughly the end of August. So that would kind of carry us through. But the main thing that I'm looking at here is like we have been pretty resilient against that Iran war up until now. And I just simply think that the main issue now is not the fact that, you know, the Iran war is causing trouble. I think that the main issue is just people selling crypto to chase the AI boom, which is happening right now around stocks. But also to build on top of this, like, yes, we are still seeing uncertainty with the war. We just got this earlier yesterday. This is from Trump. I have just been informed by our great military that last night the Iranians shot down one of our highly sophisticated Apache helicopters while patrolling over the Strait of Hormuz. There were 2 pilots involved. Both are safe and uninjured. Nevertheless, the United States must, of necessity, respond to this attack. And that's from Trump on June 9th. And here we do have from the U.S. Central Command. U.S. Central Command forces began launching self-defense strikes against Iran at 5 p.m. ET yesterday at the commander-in-chief's direction in response to yesterday's downing of a U.S. Army Apache helicopter. The mission is a proportional response to unjustified Iranian aggression. Now, the interesting thing about this, right, is that it was right after market close, and we did get a massive crash into this. Like, this was pretty much the price action leading into it. We did see the price action kind of bounce back a bit. And then we got that after the, close, which was pretty interesting because, again, this was at 1244, which we did see the impact. And then we started to see things bounce back. And then we got this right after the close. I know that we're dealing with a war here. I know that we're dealing with, certain things. But I just find it very interesting that it's always after the close. We always see major manipulation into the close as well. And I don't know if somebody's trading insider information or what's going on here, but I just find this very, very interesting. And, maybe it's a coincidence. We don't know, but I just think that these announcements are always timed very, very well. But to build on top of that, everything got wiped out. Even crypto, yes. We saw stocks, metals, and crypto all get wiped out. 1.88 trillion wiped out in the last 1 hour. S&P 500 is down 1.62%, wiping out 1.1 trillion. NASDAQ is down 2.5%, wiping out 880 billion. Gold is down 1.95%, wiping out 570 billion. Silver is down 5.56%, wiping out 220 billion. Russell 2000 is down 2.06%, wiping out 68 billion. And then Bitcoin was also down about 2.12%, wiping out about $28 billion. So yeah, whole wipeout across the board. Pretty interesting to see. And the main thing that I'm looking at is, where is the perfect storm? Like, are we just seeing the market crash and, we're just going to continue to see it crash? Like, what's going on here? Well, I go back to the whole idea of sentiment. And if we're looking at the sentiment right now, the stock market is on the brink of extreme fear. If we're looking at crypto, and we're actually looking at the community sentiment here, because you could track this around everything. But I mainly look at the actual, dashboard here for the fear and greed index. And we're at 14. We've been at extreme fear for a bit of time now, since going all the way back to roughly the 3rd of the month. So we are already in extreme fear. So now we have stocks about to dip into the extreme fear level. And typically during this time, if we're really looking at this, here we have the beginning of February. It was a prime buying opportunity. I do think that this time around, we're seeing the same exact pattern. It's a prime buying opportunity. Now, I did state on X that the perfect storm is setting up right now while everyone is peak bearish. War continues, Bitcoin back to 60K, all hope is lost essentially. Typically, these environments lead to bottoms and extremely bullish impulses. You think about COVID, you think about 2022, you think about all of these major, drops in time. Like FTX was a massive bearish event. FTX combined with Luna, it was the perfect recipe for a bottom. And that's why a lot of people get caught up in the bearish headlines, but the bearish headlines are technically the opposite. You have to think the opposite. But we have here from Altcoin Daily that big things are happening in crypto, June 2026, Clarity Act, Fed, plus Sailor equals big news. And here we have a video clip of that. 1 second, let me pull it up. So here we have it. This is Kevin Warsh's first FOMC meeting is next week. Few things will be more impactful than what the new Fed chair has to say, according to Wharton's Jeremy Siegel. Next week, Warsh's meeting, you have to go back years, if not decades, to get something that is going to be more interesting and more impactful than what he's going to say. Check this out.
SpaceX is going to, obviously occupy this week. But next week, Warsh's meeting, wow, I don't remember one. I mean, you have to go back years, if not decades, to get something that to me is going to be more interesting and more impactful than what he's going to say.
But no one would really hold it against Fed Chair Warsh if he didn't do what President Trump obviously wants so much, and that's lower rates, because things have changed, and the bond market itself can dictate what's possible for the Fed to do, and it certainly doesn't look like interest rate cuts are coming anytime soon.
I mean, the 10-year is the ultimate arbiter. You're absolutely right. But you notice even a tone change of President Trump from, a month or two ago, oh, we definitely have to lower rates, almost to saying, hey, just don't raise rates. I think his last statement was, I don't think we should raise rates. They sort of, maybe we could keep them the way they are. And clearly, I mean, next week, he's not going to raise or lower rates. But, I mean, what is it going to map out? I mean, is it going to change communications? Is it going to eliminate the dot plots? I mean, a new agenda is going to be announced. He gave us really not a lot of clues coming into him. No speech before the quiet period, which we're in right now. So really, it's a big reveal, if you want, next Wednesday. That I'm going to be, putting my ears right to the Fed announcement.
I do think that Jeremy is wrong here, though, because we did get a few clues from Kevin Warsh, and it was regarding AI. He actually utilized AI as an example on why we should be cutting interest rates. And with how crazy AI stocks have been going, I do think that we have the perfect example and reason why we should be cutting interest rates, because AI is doing X, Y, and Z for our economy, right? Even though we know it's a lie, even though we know that it's nonsense, the typical individual will not really know that, and they'll just listen to the nonsense being told to them. So I do think that we have a slight sort of interesting environment here from Kevin Warsh. And if we do start to see, a Fed cut, that's going to be crazy. That's going to be crazy for the market. But also we come back to clarity, right? Clarity is also being voted on this month. And I do think that this is definitely a very interesting one because we just got a major meeting. It was White House officials meet with law enforcement groups today on the Clarity Act with talks focused on illicit finance, concerns, and developer protections ahead of a Senate vote. And to build on top of this, we also got a big update from Trump. He said that there is no reason for the Fed to raise interest rates. So yeah, if we're looking at this, I do think that Trump wants rate cuts. We have to see what Kevin Warsh does. I don't think that he's going to cut right out of the gate. I think that we probably see a hold, which allows us to kind of chop a little bit more, and then possibly going into the fall time frame, which is the typical status quo from the Fed to actually cut interest rates. I think that that's when we start to see a potential cut. I think that the perfect storm technically here would be this war wrapping up towards the end of the year with, the Clarity Act passing, with the Fed starting to cut interest rates. That would be an insane environment for crypto. Obviously, we have to see what happens here. But beyond that perfect storm, the main thing that we're looking at here is, we have the Clarity Act, we have the Fed, and then we also have Saylor as well, which we know that Saylor has been buying even more Bitcoin. And, everyone will say oh, it's a, this, that, whatever scam. Sure, you can call it whatever, but we still have buying demand for Bitcoin, which is still a good thing. But we definitely need to see a stronger impulsive move. We need to see something happen here. But there's a crazy lineup here for crypto. There's a crazy lineup of catalyst and potential things that could affect the overall outcome on the chart. The main thing that I'm looking at here is just mainly the sentiment. Sentiment right now is so bearish. And I think that that's very telling just by looking at the fear and greed index from stocks and even crypto. Crypto, I mainly look at what happened back here. Even if we go all the way back to April of 2025, we are more bearish now than April of 2025. And, typically we start to see the market really punish those that are fearful during these times. So in my opinion, now is really not the time to be fearful. I don't think that now is the time to be, locked in on the idea of oh, that's it. This market's dead. It's done. It's finished. We have a lot of bullish catalysts in front of us. We have a lot of things happening around crypto that could support positive price action. Yes, it might be a lagging factor, but we have to see what happens. I feel closer to the end of this year, people are going to be surprised where the price action is, and maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? But we'll have to wait and see. But in my opinion, there is a perfect storm here, and I think that it really kind of comes back to the whole idea that we are seeing these crazy wipeouts every other week. Everyone's panicking, everyone's scared, everyone's just done and frustrated at the time that we are starting to see this war starting to heat up again, which is just going to create more bearish headlines and panic headlines. But behind all of this, we know that companies are urging Congress to pass the Clarity Act. and this includes a ton of major players from the space. But also at the same time, we know that this week, like, we just got a big meeting, which could definitely impact the, Senate vote, at the same time that we have the FOMC meeting next week. So there's so much happening here in June. Let's see what happens. But with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely like, subscribe, to notifications on because of more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord on the description below. And with that being said, guys, Nick, thanks for watching. Peace out, guys.